If you need a man to stand beside you for one weekend, why does it sound like you are asking him to step into a storm? Marcus Bennett stared at the message glowing on his cracked phone screen, while rain tapped against the window of his small apartment. The text had arrived from an unknown number at 7:18 on Friday evening, just as he was tightening the loose hinge on the kitchen cabinet for the third time that month. Across the room, Lila sat at the table in her purple pajamas, carefully cutting stars from construction paper for a school project. The old space heater clicked beside her, fighting the October chill. Marcus read the message again. Weekend companion needed. Public events only. Paid generously. Must be discreet, dependable, and comfortable around wealthy families. He almost laughed. Wealthy families were not usually looking for men like him. Not a 36-year-old black father with calloused hands, a faded work jacket, and a truck that had decided to quit on him that afternoon outside the hardware store. The repair shop had given him an estimate that made his stomach tighten. $840. More than he had in his savings. More than he could borrow without missing rent. And on Monday morning, Lila needed that truck to get to school before 7:30 for the science club field trip she had been talking about for weeks. "Dad?" Lila asked, holding up a crooked paper star. "Does this one look like a star or a potato?" Marcus looked at it and smiled despite himself. "That is the most talented potato I have ever seen." She grinned, then studied his face. "Bad news?" Marcus had learned that children noticed silence before adults did. He set the phone face down on the counter. "Just figuring out grown-up stuff." Lila nodded as if that explained everything. "You always figure it out." The words landed softly, but they carried more weight than she knew. Marcus turned back to the phone. He had spent years figuring things out. After Lila's mother left, he learned how to braid hair from online videos, how to stretch a grocery budget, how to fix a leaky faucet at midnight, and how to smile when people spoke to him slowly because they assumed hard work meant a simple mind. He did not mind work. He minded being treated like work was all he could ever be. The message had included a contact name, Claire. No last name. No company. No explanation beyond a request to meet at a coffee shop downtown the next morning. Marcus typed a reply, then erased it. He did not want to be someone's joke, someone's prop, or someone's excuse to make another person jealous. But the repair estimate sat on the counter beside a stack of bills, and Lila's field trip permission slip was held to the refrigerator with a magnet shaped like a sunflower. He looked at the date. The payment for the trip was due Monday. "Who is Claire?" Lila asked, peeking over the table. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You saw that?" "I saw your face when you read it." He shook his head, smiling. "Claire might be offering Dad a job for the weekend." Lila leaned forward. "A good job?" "Maybe. Does it involve ladders?" "I do not know." "Then be careful. Ladders are suspicious." Marcus laughed quietly, and the tightness in his chest loosened for 1 second. Then his phone vibrated again. This time, the message was shorter. "I will pay enough to repair your truck and cover whatever your daughter needs for school. Please do not say no before you hear me out." Marcus looked toward the rain-dark window. Outside, his truck sat under the street lamp, silent and useless. Inside, Lila returned to her paper stars, trusting him to make tomorrow work. He picked up the phone and typed one sentence before he could change his mind. Saturday. 10 o'clock. 1 hour. Public place. Claire replied almost immediately. "Thank you, Marcus. I promise you will not regret it." He wished he believed her. Marcus arrived at the coffee shop 12 minutes early because being late had never been an option in his life. The place sat on a quiet corner downtown, wedged between a bookstore and a florist, with fogged windows and a hand-painted sign that promised fresh pastries. He had borrowed his neighbor's old sedan after explaining that his truck was in the shop. The sedan made a strange rattling sound whenever he turned left, but it got him there. That was enough. He stood outside for a moment, smoothing the front of his dark green button-down shirt. It was the nicest shirt he owned, clean and pressed even though the cuffs had softened with age. He had left Lila with Mrs. Alvarez from downstairs, who had promised pancakes, cartoons, and strict instructions not to let Lila climb on anything taller than a kitchen chair. Marcus checked his phone. 10 o'clock exactly. Then he saw her through the window. Claire sat alone near the back of the cafe, not in the kind of clothes he expected from someone who could offer to repair his truck without asking a question. She wore a camel-colored coat over a simple cream sweater, dark jeans, and low brown boots. Her chestnut hair fell loosely around her shoulders, and both hands were wrapped around a mug as if she needed its warmth. There was no driver waiting outside, no assistant hovering nearby, no expensive jewelry flashing beneath the lights. Just a woman looking toward the door every few seconds with the careful worry of someone waiting for a decision that mattered. When Marcus stepped inside, she stood so quickly that her chair scraped against the floor. "Marcus?" she asked. Her voice was softer than he expected. "Claire?" He watched relief cross her face before she smiled. "Thank you for coming." "I said 1 hour," Marcus replied, pulling out the chair across from her. "That is what you get." Claire nodded as if she respected the boundary. 1 hour. A barista came over, and Claire asked what he wanted. Marcus ordered black coffee because he did not like owing strangers more than he already did. When the barista left, Claire folded her hands on the table. "I need someone to attend a few events with me this weekend," she said. "Dinner tonight, a charity luncheon tomorrow, and a family gala tomorrow evening." Marcus leaned back. "As what?" Claire looked down at her mug. "As my date." He did not laugh. He had expected something strange, but not that. "You do not know me." "No," she said. "But I know enough." Marcus waited. "You have no criminal record. You have been running your repair business for 7 years. You volunteer at your daughter's school when you can. You turned down a job last winter because it would have taken you out of town for 3 months." His expression changed. "You looked into me." Claire's face tightened. "Only enough to know you were safe. I should have told you that in the message." "Why me?" Marcus asked. Outside, a delivery truck rolled past, splashing rainwater along the curb. Claire watched it disappear before answering. "Because I need someone who will not pretend to like me for what they think I can offer." Marcus let that sit between them. "And you think a man who needs $840 for a truck repair is proof of that?" Claire looked directly at him. "No. I think a man who puts his daughter before every other decision is proof of character." Marcus felt the words land in a place he kept guarded. He did not like how easily she had found that place. "What is the catch?" he asked. "There is always a catch." Claire gave a small, tired smile. "My family is difficult. They have opinions about everyone and everything. They are expecting me to appear with someone tomorrow night, and I do not want to arrive alone." "Why not?" Claire's fingers tightened around the mug. "Because if I arrive alone, they will decide what my life should look like before I get a chance to say anything." Marcus understood that more than she knew. He had watched people decide who he was from the moment they saw his work boots, his skin, or the tiredness in his eyes. Still, he shook his head. "I am not going to lie for you. I am not asking you to," Claire said quickly. "Just be yourself. That is all." The coffee arrived. Marcus took one sip, then set the cup down. "Public events. No pretending we are something we are not. No surprises involving my daughter. And I leave if anyone disrespects me." Claire's eyes widened slightly, then she nodded. "Agreed. And payment?" "Half today, half tomorrow night," she said. "Enough for the truck repair and Lila's school expenses." Marcus looked through the window at the gray morning, then back at Claire. Something in her expression told him she was carrying more than a difficult family weekend. But whatever it was not his problem. Not yet. He extended his hand across the table. Claire looked at it for a second before taking it. Her hand was cool, her grip steady. "1 weekend," Marcus said. "1 weekend," Claire replied. Neither of them noticed the woman in a black sedan parked across the street, watching through the rain-streaked windshield as Claire shook hands with a man she had never brought into the Whitmore family's world before. By 6:30 that evening, Marcus was standing in front of the mirror in his bedroom, trying to decide whether the navy blazer he had borrowed from his brother made him look respectable, or like a man playing dress-up. The sleeves were a little too long, and the shoulders pulled when he moved, but Lila stood behind him with both hands on her hips, studying him with grave concentration. "You look fancy," she announced. "That is not an answer. It is a good fancy," she said. "Like the dad in the school picture day flyer, except nicer." Marcus smiled at her reflection. "That is a very specific compliment." Mrs. Alvarez waited in the living room with a bowl of popcorn and a movie already paused on the television. Marcus had explained that he would be home before midnight, though he knew promises like that were dangerous when a job involved people with money, schedules, and opinions. He crouched beside Lila and adjusted the collar of her soft yellow sweatshirt. "You call me if you need anything. Even if I just want to tell you the movie is boring? Especially then." She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Is Claire nice?" Marcus paused. He thought of the way Claire had looked at him across the coffee shop table, not like he was a favor she had purchased, but like she was afraid he might disappear before she could finish explaining herself. "I think she is trying to be," he said. Lila nodded as if that made perfect sense. "Then do not let anyone be mean to her." Marcus gave a quiet laugh. "I thought I was the one going to a difficult dinner." "You can both have difficult dinners," she said. Outside, a black town car waited at the curb. Marcus had almost refused when Claire texted that a driver would pick him up, but the repair shop had taken his truck that afternoon, and he had no reason to make the evening harder than it already was. The driver opened the door without saying much. Marcus climbed in and watched his neighborhood slide past the window, the laundromat with its flickering sign, the corner store where Lila liked to choose one piece of candy on Fridays, the basketball hoop with no net behind the community center. 20 minutes later, the city changed. The streets grew wider, the buildings taller, and the sidewalks filled with people moving beneath warm lights and polished awnings. The car stopped in front of a restaurant whose entrance was framed by tall glass doors and white stone columns. Claire waited beneath the canopy, wearing a deep green dress beneath a black coat, elegant without looking like she had dressed for an audience. When she saw Marcus step out of the car, her shoulders relaxed. "You came," she said. "I said I would." He looked toward the restaurant. "This is dinner?" "My cousin chose it," Claire replied, and something in her voice made him understand that was not a good thing. Inside, the dining room glowed with soft amber light. A host led them past tables covered in white linen and silverware arranged with more confidence than Marcus felt. Claire walked beside him, not ahead of him, and when the host asked whether they preferred sparkling or still water, she waited for Marcus to answer first. It was a small thing, but he noticed. At the far end of the room, a group of well-dressed people sat around a private table near the windows. A woman in a pale gold dress stood as they approached. She had sleek blonde hair, a perfect smile, and eyes that did not soften when they landed on Marcus. "Claire," she said, kissing the air near Claire's cheek. "You finally made it." Then her gaze moved to Marcus. "And this must be your surprise." Claire's hand rested lightly near Marcus's arm, not touching him, but close enough for him to understand the gesture. "Diana, this is Marcus Bennett." Diana smiled again. "Of course. The weekend date." Marcus held out his hand. "Marcus is fine." Diana looked at his hand for a fraction of a second before shaking it. "I am sure it is." The table went quiet in a way Marcus recognized. It was the silence that came before someone decided whether he belonged. Claire pulled out the chair beside hers. "Sit with me," she said. Marcus sat, aware of the weight of every glance around the table. A man with silver hair asked what he did for work. Marcus answered plainly. "I own a small repair business. Mostly home repairs, appliances, and maintenance work." Diana tilted her head. How practical. Marcus met her eyes. It keeps people's homes running. I imagine it does, she said, lifting her glass. Claire has always had a soft spot for people who fix things. Claire's expression tightened. Marcus could have answered with anger. He could have reminded Diana that people like him kept buildings, homes, and whole neighborhoods standing while people like her talked about practicality over expensive wine. Instead, he took a slow breath. Most things worth having need someone willing to maintain them, he said. The silver-haired man looked down at his plate. Claire's lips pressed together, hiding what might have been a smile. Diana's eyes sharpened. Then Claire's phone vibrated beneath the table. She glanced at the screen, and the color drained from her face. Marcus noticed before anyone else did. Everything okay? He asked quietly. Claire locked the phone and forced a smile. Yes. Just family business. But the way her fingers trembled around the edge of the table told him that whatever she was hiding had just found its way to dinner. Claire kept her phone face down beside her plate, but Marcus could see the tension in her shoulders. Around them, the dinner continued with the polished rhythm of people who had spent years pretending every conversation was harmless. Silverware touched porcelain. A waiter poured wine. Someone at the far end of the table laughed too loudly at a story Marcus had not heard. Diana leaned back in her chair, watching Claire with the patient expression of someone waiting for a door to open. You seem distracted, Diana said. Is something wrong? Claire lifted her eyes. Nothing I cannot handle. That is what you always say, Diana replied, sweetly enough that no one else might have noticed the edge beneath it. Then we all end up handling it for you. Marcus felt Claire go still beside him. He had seen that kind of stillness before. It was not calm. It was what happened when someone had learned that reacting only gave cruel people more room to enjoy themselves. He reached for his water, giving Claire time to answer if she wanted to. But Diana was not finished. She turned toward Marcus with a smile that never reached her eyes. So, Marcus, how exactly did you and Claire meet? Marcus set his glass down. We met for coffee. Coffee, Diana repeated. How charmingly ordinary. Claire's voice sharpened. Diana. What? Diana asked, widening her eyes. I am trying to get to know the man you brought into our family dinner. The silver-haired man across the table shifted in his chair. A woman beside him looked down at her napkin. Nobody defended Claire. Nobody told Diana to stop. Marcus understood then that this was not a single bad evening. This was a pattern. Claire had been sitting at tables like this for years, surrounded by people who could make a person feel lonely without ever raising their voices. I repair homes and appliances, Marcus said evenly. I spend my days making sure people have heat, working locks, and safe places to sleep. That is how I met Claire. She needed someone reliable. Diana's smile narrowed. Reliable is such an interesting word. Claire turned toward her. You do not get to speak about him like he is a service you ordered. The silence that followed was immediate. Marcus looked at Claire. Her face had changed. She was no longer trying to keep the peace. Her gray eyes were clear now, even if fear still lived behind them. Diana slowly placed her fork on the table. I am only being realistic. You barely know him. I know enough, Claire said. And I know you have spent the last year trying to decide who I should be seen with. The silver-haired man finally spoke. Claire, this is not the place. It is exactly the place, she replied. Because every place becomes the place when everyone keeps pretending nothing is happening. Marcus felt the air shift around the table. Diana glanced toward Claire's phone. Is this about the message? She asked. Claire's fingers moved toward the phone, then stopped. What message? Marcus asked quietly. Diana looked at him with false surprise. Oh. She did not tell you. Claire's jaw tightened. Do not. Diana ignored her. Our family has been discussing a business arrangement. Claire has a responsibility to the Whitmore name, and tomorrow night she is expected to make an announcement. Marcus looked at Claire. What kind of announcement? Claire did not answer right away. Outside the windows, headlights slid through the rain. For a moment, she looked less like the composed woman from the coffee shop and more like someone standing at the edge of a decision she had delayed too long. My family wants me to announce an engagement, she said. Marcus stared at her. The words did not make sense at first. Then they did, and something cold settled in his chest. You hired me to be your date while you are supposed to announce an engagement? I did not know they would force it this weekend, Claire said quickly. I thought I had more time. Diana gave a quiet laugh. Force is a dramatic word. No one is forcing Claire to do anything. We are simply protecting the future of the family. Marcus pushed his chair back slightly. He kept his voice low because he had promised himself he would leave if anyone disrespected him, and he was beginning to understand that disrespect did not always arrive with an insult. Sometimes it arrived dressed as a secret. You should have told me, he said to Claire. You are right, she whispered. I should have. He looked at her for another second, then stood. Claire rose too. Marcus, please. He shook his head. I came here because you said you needed someone beside you. But I am not going to be used as a shield in a fight you will not admit you are having. Claire's eyes filled, but she did not reach for him. That mattered. I am sorry, she said. Marcus nodded once. I believe you are. He stepped away from the table, but before he could leave the private dining room, Claire's phone lit up again. This time the screen faced upward. Marcus saw only a few words before she grabbed it. Tomorrow. 8 o'clock. No excuses? Then a second message appeared beneath it from a number with no name. Bring the man, or Lila Bennett's school will hear everything. Marcus stopped so quickly that the waiter carrying a tray behind him had to change direction. For 1 second, the private dining room disappeared. There was only the bright rectangle of Claire's phone, the name of his daughter's school, and the heartbeat of his own heart. Claire grabbed the phone from the table, her face drained of color. Diana's smile vanished too quickly to be innocent. Marcus turned toward her. What did you do? Diana lifted both hands. Do not look at me. I have no idea who would send something so ugly. You knew there was a message, Claire said. Her voice was quiet, but it had changed again. This time it was not fear. It was anger held so tightly it became steady. Diana looked toward the other family members. Claire, you are making a scene. Someone mentioned a child to control me, Claire replied. The scene was already made. Marcus did not wait for anyone to explain. He took out his phone and called Mrs. Alvarez. She answered on the second ring, cheerful at first, then concerned when she heard his voice. Is Lila okay? He asked. She is fine, honey. She is asleep on the couch with the television on low. Marcus closed his eyes. Did anyone come by? Call? Ask about her? No one. Why? It is probably nothing, he said, though the words tasted wrong. Please lock the door. Do not open it for anyone except me. I am coming home. He ended the call and looked at Claire. This is over. Claire nodded, but she stepped closer. You are right. You should go to her. I am going. Marcus. He paused. Claire held out her phone. Take a picture of the message. I will send it to my attorney and to security. I will find out who did this. Marcus looked at the screen but did not take it. You should have found out what your family was capable of before you brought me into it. The words hurt him as much as they hurt her. He could see it in her face. But Lila's safety was not a place for kindness toward strangers. It was a line. Claire lowered the phone slowly. You are right, she said. I do not have an excuse. Diana rose from her chair. This is ridiculous. A threatening text from an unknown number does not mean anyone in this family is involved. Marcus faced her. Maybe not. But you knew enough to use it at the table. Diana's eyes narrowed. You are overreacting. Marcus took one step closer, not threatening, only certain. A man like me does not get the luxury of overreacting. When people decide they know who I am before I speak, I have to notice everything." The room went silent. Claire looked at him as if she had never heard anyone say that aloud. Marcus turned and walked out. The rain had eased by the time he reached the sidewalk, but the streets still shone under the city lights. He called the driver, then changed his mind. He needed air. He needed to move. He walked 3 blocks before Claire's voice called his name from behind him. He stopped but did not turn right away. "You should not be out here alone," he said. "Neither should you." Claire stood a few feet away beneath the restaurant awning, her black coat pulled tight around her. She had left without an umbrella, and rain had darkened the ends of her hair. "I told the driver to take you home," she said. "He is waiting around the corner." Marcus finally faced her. "Why did you follow me?" Claire looked down at the wet sidewalk. "Because I need to tell you the truth before you decide I am exactly like them." Marcus folded his arms. "You have about 30 seconds. Claire took a breath. "My last name is Whitmore. My grandfather built Whitmore Holdings. My father died when I was 23, and after that, my aunt and Diana became the people who made every decision around me. They say they are protecting me, but they are protecting the version of me that keeps their power safe." Marcus said nothing. "Tomorrow night," Claire continued, "they want me to announce an engagement to Grant Holloway. His family owns a private equity firm. The marriage would tie the companies together. And you hired me because?" Claire's eyes met his. "Because I was tired of being managed. I wanted one weekend where someone saw me as a person, not a last name. I thought if I showed up with someone kind and real, I could remind myself that I still had a choice." Marcus let out a slow breath. "That was not fair to me." "No," she said. "It was not." A black town car pulled up at the curb. Marcus opened the rear door, then looked back at her. "You do have a choice, Claire. But you cannot make it by putting other people in the line of fire." Claire nodded, tears shining in her eyes but not falling. "I know." He got into the car. As it pulled away, he watched her grow smaller in the rear window, alone beneath the awning. When he reached home, Mrs. Alvarez opened the apartment door before he could knock. Lila was asleep under a blanket, her paper stars scattered across the coffee table. Marcus stood over her for a long moment, listening to her quiet breathing. Then his phone buzzed. It was a message from Claire. "I sent the threat to my attorney. Security is checking every camera around Lila's school and your building. I will not contact you again tonight unless there is a reason." Beneath it was a second message from an unknown number. "You should have stayed away from the Whitmores." Marcus stared at the words until the screen went dark. Marcus did not sleep much after that. He sat in the armchair beside the couch with his phone in one hand and the apartment lights off, listening to the refrigerator hum and the occasional car pass below. Lila slept under her blanket with one paper star caught in her curls. Every few minutes, Marcus looked at her, then at the dark screen of his phone, as if the message might return if he watched closely enough. By sunrise, he had made 3 decisions. First, he would not let fear turn their home into a prison. Second, he would tell Lila only what she needed to know. Third, he would not answer another unknown number. At 7:15, he made oatmeal with cinnamon and sliced bananas while Lila sat at the counter, still sleepy and wearing mismatched socks. "Are we still going to the farmer's market after school?" she asked. Marcus stirred the pot slowly. "Maybe not today." "Because of the truck?" "Partly." She watched him for a moment. "Is this grown-up stuff again?" Marcus smiled, though it did not reach his eyes. "Something like that." Lila slid off the stool and wrapped her arms around his waist. "You always figure it out," she said again. This time, Marcus held her a little longer. At 8 o'clock, his phone rang. Claire's name appeared on the screen. He almost let it go to voicemail, but he answered because he needed facts, not apologies. "Marcus," Claire said, and he could hear that she had not slept either. "My attorney traced the message. It came through a temporary number, but the security footage from the restaurant parking garage shows Diana's assistant leaving after speaking with someone in a black sedan. Marcus leaned against the kitchen counter. That does not prove Diana sent it. No, Claire said. But it proves this is not nothing. He looked toward Lila, who was packing crayons into her backpack. What are you doing about it? I have arranged extra security near your building and the school. Discreetly. No one will approach Lila. I also told my family I will not attend the gala unless Diana explains what she knows. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. You should not have security near my daughter without asking me. You are right, Claire said immediately. I am sorry. I asked them to wait outside the block, not near the school. I wanted you to have the choice. Her answer slowed his anger. Not because it fixed anything, but because she did not defend herself. What do you want from me? He asked. There was a pause. Nothing, Claire said. Not today. I only wanted you to know I am taking this seriously. Marcus looked at the bills on the counter, the truck repair estimate, and Lila's field trip form. You still owe me half the payment. It was transferred this morning, Claire replied. No conditions attached. He checked his banking app and saw the deposit. Enough for the truck repair, the field trip, and more breathing room than he had felt in months. The relief came with a bitter edge. He did not want money tied to a mess he never asked for. Thank you, he said carefully. But this does not change anything. I know. After the call ended, Marcus drove Lila to school in Mrs. Alvarez's sedan. He parked 2 blocks away and walked her to the entrance, scanning the street without making it obvious. There was a man in a dark jacket near the corner, speaking into an earpiece. Marcus noticed him, then noticed the way the man kept his distance, and looked away when Marcus glanced over. Security, probably. Marcus did not like it, but he understood the intention. Lila stopped at the school doors. Dad? Yeah? Are you coming to my science presentation next week? Would not miss it. Even if you have grown-up stuff? Marcus bent down so they were eye to eye. Especially then. She smiled and hurried inside. Marcus waited until she disappeared into a hallway before walking back toward the car. His phone buzzed again, but this time it was not an unknown number. It was Claire. I am at the Riverside Market. No pressure. I bought coffee because I remembered you take it black. He stared at the message. He should have ignored it. He should have gone straight to the repair shop, paid the bill, and returned to the life that made sense. But something about the words no pressure made him think of Claire standing alone in the rain, admitting the truth after it was already too late. An hour later, Marcus found her beside a small coffee stand near the river, dressed in jeans, sneakers, and a gray sweater. No driver. No bodyguard. No family. She held out a paper cup without stepping closer. Black coffee, she said. Marcus took it. You really should stop meeting strangers from the internet. Claire gave a tired laugh. I am learning. They walked slowly along the river path while Saturday shoppers moved around them. Claire pointed out a bakery that sold cinnamon rolls the size of dinner plates, and Marcus told her Lila would approve. For a few minutes, they talked about nothing important. Then Claire stopped near the railing. I am not asking you to come tonight, she said. But I am not going to announce an engagement I do not want. Diana thinks fear will make me cooperate. Marcus looked at the water moving beneath the gray sky. Fear makes people do strange things. What does courage make them do? Claire asked. He looked at her. It makes them tell the truth before someone else pays the price. Claire nodded slowly. In the distance, a church bell rang the hour. Marcus took another sip of coffee, and for the first time since last night, he felt the knot in his chest loosen just enough to breathe. Claire did not ask Marcus to forgive her. She did not ask him to stay. She only stood beside the river railing with both hands around her coffee cup, watching a tugboat move slowly beneath the steel bridge. The wind lifted a strand of chestnut hair across her cheek, and she tucked it behind her ear without looking at him. Marcus respected that more than he wanted to admit. Most people apologized because they wanted the discomfort to end. Claire looked like she understood that discomfort was the smallest thing she owed him. "When I was 12, she said after a while, "my father brought me here on a Saturday morning. He bought me a pretzel from a cart and told me that money could make people listen, but it could not make them care." Marcus glanced at her. "Sounds like he knew something." "He did." Her mouth curved briefly, then faded. "After he died, I let other people tell me what caring looked like. They called it protection. They called it responsibility. Eventually, I stopped arguing because arguing took too much energy." Marcus leaned his forearms on the cold metal railing. "That is how people get control. They make you tired enough to hand it over." Claire looked at him with surprise. "You know that feeling?" He watched the river instead of answering right away. "I know what it is like when people decide your choices are smaller than they really are. When they see a black man with a tool belt and a kid to raise, they assume they know the whole story. They assume I should be grateful for any door that opens, even if somebody is standing in it, telling me how far I am allowed to walk." Claire's expression softened, but she did not interrupt. "I spent a long time trying to prove I was not what they expected," Marcus continued. "Then I realized I did not need to prove anything to people who had already made up their minds. I just needed to make sure Lila never learned to shrink herself because somebody else was uncomfortable with her taking up space." Claire looked down at her cup. "She is lucky to have you. I am lucky to have her." For a few moments, the city moved around them. A cyclist passed. A child laughed near the market stalls. The smell of roasted nuts drifted through the air. It was an ordinary Saturday, and Marcus found himself wishing the last 24 hours had been ordinary too. Claire reached into her tote bag and pulled out a thin cream envelope. "This came to my apartment this morning," she said. "My assistant found it under the door." Marcus did not take it immediately. "What is it?" "An invitation to the gala. It has my name and Grant Holloway's name printed together." Her fingers tightened on the envelope. "Diana arranged everything weeks ago. The press release is ready. The photographs are planned. I am supposed to smile and make it look like a choice." Marcus looked at the gold lettering. "Then do not go." Claire let out a small breath that was almost a laugh. "It is not that simple." "Why not?" "Because the board will see it as rebellion. My aunt will say I am unstable. Diana will say I am embarrassing the family. They will freeze me out of decisions that affect thousands of employees." Marcus nodded slowly. "That is the part that is real." "Yes. But marrying someone to keep a seat at a table is not a decision. It is surrender." Claire closed her eyes for a second. When she opened them, she looked less frightened than before. "You make it sound obvious." "It is obvious when it is happening to somebody else." His phone rang before she could answer. Mrs. Alvarez's name flashed on the screen. Marcus answered at once. "Is Lila okay?" "She is fine," Mrs. Alvarez said. "She is at the playground with her friend Naomi's grandmother." "But someone left an envelope in the lobby with your apartment number on it." Marcus felt his body go still. "Do not touch it." "I did not. The building manager has it. I will be there in 20 minutes. He ended the call. Claire had already set down her coffee. "I am coming with you." Marcus shook his head. "No. You have done enough." "I know," she said. "But I am not going to disappear when things get difficult." He looked at her, weighing the words. "You cannot fix this with money." "I am not trying to." "Then what are you trying to do?" Claire's eyes held his. "Stand beside you. The way I asked you to stand beside me." Marcus looked away first. The river moved beneath them, dark and steady. He thought of Lila, of the strange message, of the way Claire had not defended herself when he told her she was wrong. "You can come," he said at last. "But you follow my lead." Claire nodded. "I will." They walked toward the parking lot without touching, each keeping a respectful distance. Marcus called the building manager from the car and asked him to wait outside with the envelope. When they arrived, the manager stood near the front steps, holding a plain white envelope with a pair of gloves. Marcus took it carefully and opened it. Inside was a single photograph. It showed him and Claire at the Riverside Market, standing near the coffee stall that morning. Beneath the photograph were 6 typed words: "The gala will decide who belongs." Claire went pale. Marcus folded the paper once and put it back in the envelope. "Then we stop letting them decide," he said. The envelope lay on Marcus's kitchen table between Lila's unfinished paper stars and the repair estimate for his truck. Claire stood near the window, silent for once, while Marcus studied the photograph again. It had been taken from across the market, far enough away that neither of them had noticed anyone watching. He could see himself holding a coffee cup, Claire listening with her head slightly tilted, the two of them looking almost ordinary. That was what made it feel wrong. Someone had turned an ordinary moment into a warning. "The building manager said the envelope was left by a courier," Claire said carefully. "He did not see a face." Marcus nodded without looking up. "That is the point. They want us to imagine the worst." Claire moved closer, then stopped at the other side of the table. "My attorney is trying to trace the printing company. The paper stock is expensive. Diana has a habit of using details like that when she wants people to know she has control." Marcus let out a short breath. "You keep saying Diana. Because I know her. Knowing somebody and proving something are different." Claire looked at him for a moment, then nodded. "You are right." Lila's voice came from the hallway before either of them could say more. "Dad, can I have apple slices?" Marcus quickly folded the photograph and slid it beneath the repair estimate. Lila walked into the kitchen wearing a backpack almost as big as she was, her cheeks pink from the cold outside. She stopped when she saw Claire. Her eyes widened, but she did not look afraid. "You are Claire," she said. Claire smiled gently. "I am. You must be Lila. Dad said you were trying to be nice." Marcus closed his eyes for half a second. Claire's smile changed, softer now. "I hope I am getting better at it." Lila considered that answer. "Do you like cinnamon rolls?" Claire glanced at Marcus, then back at Lila. "Very much." "The big kind?" "The biggest kind." Lila nodded, apparently satisfied. "Then you can stay for apple slices." Marcus almost told her no. His apartment was small, the air was heavy, and Claire belonged to a problem he did not want near his daughter. But Claire stood there with her hands folded, waiting for his answer instead of assuming she had one. 5 minutes, Marcus said. Lila led Claire to the table and began explaining her science project, which involved building a bridge from craft sticks and proving that triangles were stronger than squares. Claire listened as if every word mattered. She asked questions. She did not check her phone. She did not speak to Lila like she was a child who needed to be entertained. Marcus watched from the counter while he cut apples, and something inside him shifted in a way he did not trust. After Lila left to show Mrs. Alvarez the first draft of her bridge, Claire's phone began to ring. The name Diana appeared on the screen. Claire stared at it. "Do not answer," Marcus said. "I have to." "Why?" "Because if I do not, she will find another way to make herself heard." Claire answered and put the phone on speaker. Diana's voice filled the kitchen, smooth and controlled. "Claire, I am glad you finally picked up. What do you want?" Claire asked. "I want you to stop making this harder than it needs to be. The gala begins in 4 hours. Grant is already on his way." Marcus leaned against the counter, his jaw tight. Diana continued, "You have embarrassed the family enough. Bring Marcus if you insist. It will make the story easier to manage." Claire's face went still. "Did you send the messages?" There was a pause. Then Diana laughed lightly. "You are being dramatic again. Did you send them?" Claire asked, louder this time. "I am trying to protect you," Diana replied. "That man is not part of your world. He never will be. You are risking everything for a weekend mistake." Marcus looked at Claire, waiting to see whether she would let those words pass. Claire's fingers tightened around the phone. "No," she said. Diana went quiet. Claire took a breath. "Marcus is not a mistake. And neither is his daughter. You do not get to use them to frighten me into doing what you want." Diana's voice hardened. "Think carefully. If you refuse tonight, the board will question your judgment. Then they can question it," Claire said. "For once, I will give them an honest answer." She ended the call before Diana could respond. The apartment was quiet except for the faint sound of Lila laughing in the next room. Claire lowered the phone and looked at Marcus. "I am going to the gala," she said. "Not to announce an engagement. To tell the truth." Marcus looked at the folded photograph on the table. "Truth is not enough if you walk in without proof." Claire nodded. "Then help me find it." He should have said no. He should have told her to take her family, her gala, and every polished threat that came with them out of his life. But he thought of Diana's voice, the way she had spoken about Lila as if she were a piece on a board. He thought of Claire standing in his kitchen, finally choosing not to bend. Marcus picked up the photograph and held it between two fingers. "We have 4 hours," he said. "Start with the person who knew where we were this morning." Claire's eyes sharpened. "My assistant." Marcus nodded. "And the black sedan outside the coffee shop yesterday." Claire reached for her coat. "I know where to find both." From the hallway, Lila called out, "Dad, is Claire leaving?" Marcus looked toward the sound, then at Claire. "Not yet," he said. "We have some things to fix." Claire's assistant worked from a small office on the 32nd floor of Whitmore Holdings, where the lobby smelled like polished stone and expensive flowers. By the time Marcus and Claire arrived, the gala was less than 3 hours away. Marcus wore the same navy blazer from the night before, but he had changed his shirt and washed the rain from his shoes. Claire had changed too, trading her gray sweater for a simple black dress beneath a long coat. She looked prepared for a fight, though there was nothing dramatic in the way she carried herself. Just a quiet decision in every step. Her assistant, Naomi Price, was waiting near the elevators with a tablet pressed against her chest. She was a young white woman with tired eyes and a nervous habit of twisting the ring on her finger. When she saw Claire, her face tightened. "I did not think you would come here," Naomi said. "Neither did Diana," Claire replied. "That is why we are here." Marcus stayed slightly behind Claire, watching Naomi's hands. He had spent years reading small signs in people. A loose jaw. A hurried breath. The way someone looked at the exit before they answered a question. Naomi looked at Marcus once, then lowered her eyes. "I did not send those messages," she said before Claire asked anything. "But you knew about them," Claire said. Naomi swallowed. "I knew Diana wanted photographs of you and Marcus." "She asked me for your schedule?" "I thought it was for the press team." Claire's expression did not change. "And the black sedan?" Naomi looked toward the glass doors. "Diana's driver. His name is Warren. He has worked for her for 6 years." Marcus folded his arms. "Did he follow us?" Naomi nodded once. "I saw the assignment in the driver log. Coffee shop yesterday morning. Riverside Market today. Your apartment building this afternoon." Claire's face went pale, but her voice stayed steady. "Why did you not tell me?" Naomi's eyes filled with tears. "Because Diana said if I interfered, she would make sure I never worked in this city again. My mother is in a care facility in Queens. I cannot lose my job." Marcus looked at Claire. The fear in Naomi's face was familiar. It was the fear of someone who had been told that survival depended on staying quiet. Claire stepped closer to her assistant. "You are not going to lose your job," she said. "Not for telling the truth." Naomi stared at her. "You cannot promise that." "I can," Claire replied. "And I should have made it safe for you to come to me sooner." Marcus noticed the way Naomi's shoulders lowered by 1 inch. Sometimes that was all a person needed before they could speak. Naomi unlocked her tablet and pulled up the driver log. There were timestamps, locations, and a note marked private instruction. Marcus leaned closer. The note was brief: obtain images. Deliver printed material. Confirm pressure is effective. Claire read it twice. This is enough to show harassment, she said. Not enough to prove Diana wrote the messages. Naomi hesitated. There is something else. She opened an email folder and found a chain between Diana and the event coordinator. The messages discussed the gala announcement, the seating arrangement, and a plan to have Grant Holloway propose on stage before Claire could speak. One line stood out: if Claire brings the contractor, make him look opportunistic. The board will understand. Marcus felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his face still. Claire read the line, then looked at him. I am sorry, she said. Marcus shook his head. Do not apologize for what she wrote. Decide what you are going to do about it. Claire nodded. I am going to show the board. Naomi looked terrified again. Diana will know I gave this to you. Then you will not be alone, Claire said. She forwarded the files to her attorney, then copied the independent members of the Whitmore board. Marcus watched the messages send one by one. It was not dramatic. No alarms sounded. No doors slammed. Just a woman choosing to stop protecting the people who had used her silence against her. Claire's phone rang. Her attorney spoke quickly, and Claire listened without interrupting. When she ended the call, she looked at Marcus. The attorney says the board chair wants to meet before the gala. He says if the documents are real, Diana will be removed from the staged program. Marcus glanced at the city below them, where the evening lights were beginning to come on. And if they are not? Claire held his gaze. Then I will still walk on that stage and tell the truth. Naomi looked between them. What about Marcus? Diana will turn this into a story about him. Marcus gave a small, tired smile. She already did. Claire stepped closer, not touching him, but close enough that he could hear the steadiness in her voice. You do not have to come tonight. Marcus thought of Lila's paper stars, of the message on the envelope, of Diana saying he did not belong. He had spent too many years walking away from rooms that were designed to make him feel small. I am not coming because I need their approval, he said. I am coming because nobody gets to use my daughter's name to make a woman afraid. Claire's eyes shone. Then we go together. Outside the office windows, the first lights of the gala venue flickered across the river. Somewhere below, a black sedan waited at the curb, and this time, Marcus knew exactly who had been sitting inside. The gala filled the top floor of the Whitmore Grand Hotel with chandeliers, soft music, and the kind of quiet laughter that sounded expensive. Marcus stepped out of the elevator beside Claire and felt every eye turn toward them before anyone said a word. He wore the navy blazer, a white shirt, and the calm expression he had practiced in the mirror while Lila ate dinner with Mrs. Alvarez. Claire wore a midnight blue gown with long sleeves and no glittering necklace, as if she had chosen not to give the room anything else to own. Her hand rested near his arm as they crossed the marble floor, not claiming him, not using him, simply reminding him that they had arrived together by choice. At the far end of the ballroom, Diana stood beside Grant Holloway near a stage decorated with white flowers and the Whitmore Holdings emblem. Grant was tall, polished, and handsome in the way magazine covers liked, but his smile faded when he saw Claire walking in with Marcus. Diana recovered first. She approached them with a glass of champagne in one hand and a smile sharp enough to cut through the music. Claire, she said, I was beginning to think you had decided not to come. Claire looked at the stage, then back at Diana. I almost did. Diana's eyes moved to Marcus. And yet you brought him. Marcus met her gaze. I came on my own. For a moment, Diana's smile slipped. Then she turned to Claire. The board chair is waiting. There is still time to do the sensible thing. Claire's voice remained quiet. I am done doing what looks sensible to people who never ask what it costs me. Diana leaned closer, lowering her voice. You are going to throw away your future for a man you met yesterday? Marcus felt the insult, but Claire answered before he could. No. I am choosing my future because I met someone who reminded me I was allowed to have one. Diana's face hardened. You are making a mistake. Maybe, Claire said. But it will be mine. Before Diana could reply, a gray-haired man in a black tuxedo approached from the stage. He was Arthur Bell, the chairman of the Whitmore board, and his expression was more serious than the celebration around them. Claire, he said. We need to speak privately. Claire nodded. Marcus started to step back, but Arthur looked at him. Mr. Bennet, you should come too. They moved into a small conference room beside the ballroom. Claire's attorney was already there with Naomi, who held her tablet close to her chest. Arthur closed the door and placed both hands on the table. I have reviewed the documents, he said. The driver logs, the event emails, and the messages from Diana's office. They raise serious concerns. Claire stood straight, though Marcus could see the strain in her eyes. What happens now? Arthur looked toward the ballroom. Diana has been removed from the stage program. Grant Holloway has been informed that there will be no engagement announcement. Claire released the breath she had been holding. Marcus watched her shoulders lower, just slightly. Then Arthur continued. However, the board cannot ignore the public situation. Guests are already asking questions. Diana has been telling people that Mr. Bennet manipulated you into bringing him here. Marcus gave a short, humorless laugh. Of course she has. Arthur looked uncomfortable. I do not believe that is true. But perception matters. Marcus felt the old anger rise, familiar and cold. Perception mattered. It always mattered more than facts when people like Diana controlled the story. Claire turned to Arthur. Then we will correct the perception. Claire, her attorney said carefully, you do not have to address the room tonight. Yes, I do, Claire replied. Because if I leave quietly, Diana will tell them I was too weak to speak. And if Marcus leaves quietly, they will say he had something to hide. Marcus looked at her. You do not owe them a performance. No, she said. But I owe myself the truth. Arthur studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. You have 5 minutes before the foundation presentation begins. In the hallway outside, the music swelled. Naomi handed Claire the tablet containing the emails and logs. Claire held it, then looked at Marcus. You can still leave, she said. Marcus thought of Lila asking whether he would come to her science presentation even if he had grown-up stuff. He thought of the note that said the gala would decide who belonged. I told you, he said. I am not here for their approval. Claire's eyes softened. Then why are you here? Marcus looked toward the ballroom doors. Because you finally told the truth. Now you have to let it be heard. Claire nodded. She took one steady breath and walked toward the stage. Marcus followed, not as a hired date, not as a shield, but as a man who had decided he would not let anyone else write his story. The ballroom quieted when Claire stepped onto the stage. The music faded into a soft final note, and hundreds of faces turned toward her beneath the chandeliers. Marcus stood a few feet behind her near the edge of the stage, where he could see the whole room without becoming the center of it. Diana stood near the front with Grant Holloway, her pale gold dress catching the light, her expression fixed in a smile that had begun to look more like a warning. Claire accepted the microphone from the foundation director. For a second, she said nothing. Her eyes moved across the room, over board members, investors, family friends, and strangers who had come expecting a celebration. Then she looked at Marcus. He did not nod or signal her. He simply stood there, steady and quiet, giving her the space to choose her own words. Tonight was supposed to be an announcement, Claire began. Her voice carried clearly through the ballroom. Many of you were told that I would be sharing news about my future. In a way, I am. A few people shifted in their seats. Grant lowered his gaze. Diana's smile did not move. Claire held the tablet in both hands. For most of my life, I believed that being responsible meant keeping the peace. I believed that if I stayed quiet, followed the plan, and accepted decisions made around me. I was protecting my family and the company my father built. Her fingers tightened slightly around the tablet. But silence does not protect people when it is used to hide fear. It only protects the people who create it. A murmur moved through the room. Marcus watched Diana's face change by degrees. First irritation. Then calculation. Then something colder when she realized Claire was not going to stop. Claire continued. Over the last 2 days, someone used private information about a man and his daughter to pressure me into accepting an arrangement I did not choose. Someone followed him, photographed him, and sent messages designed to make him afraid. The room became still. Marcus felt every eye turned toward him, but he kept his hands at his sides. He had spent enough years being looked at. He would not let their attention make him smaller now. That man is Marcus Bennett, Claire said. He came into my life because I asked him to. He did not know my family name. He did not ask for access to my company. He did not ask me for anything except honesty. Diana stepped forward from the front row. Claire, this is inappropriate. Claire looked directly at her. No. What was inappropriate was treating a father and his child like leverage. Diana's voice sharpened. You have no proof that I had anything to do with those messages. Claire lifted the tablet. The board has reviewed driver logs, event communications, and instructions from your office. The evidence shows that you arranged surveillance of Marcus Bennett and planned to use false assumptions about him to influence the board and the public. The silence broke into whispers. Grant took a step away from Diana, his expression stunned. Arthur Bell rose from his seat near the stage. The board will begin an independent review immediately, he said. Until that review is complete, Diana Whitmore will have no role in tonight's program or in company decisions. Diana stared at him. You cannot do this. Arthur's face remained calm. We can, and we are. For the first time that night, Diana looked uncertain. Her eyes moved around the ballroom, searching for support, but people who had laughed at her jokes earlier now looked away. Claire placed the tablet on the podium. There will be no engagement announcement, she said. Grant looked up. Claire turned toward him, and her voice softened without becoming weak. Grant, I am sorry that you were placed in this situation. You deserved the truth too. Grant nodded slowly. So did you. Claire faced the room again. I will not build my future on fear, appearances, or a promise made for someone else's benefit. I will not allow my father's name to be used as a reason to silence people. Marcus felt something in his chest loosen. It was not relief exactly. It was recognition. Claire was no longer asking anyone to rescue her. She was standing in the light and refusing to move. Diana turned and walked toward the exit, her heels striking the marble floor in quick, sharp steps. No one stopped her. No one followed. When the doors closed behind her, the room seemed to breathe again. Claire lowered the microphone, and for a moment she looked overwhelmed by the weight of what she had done. Marcus stepped forward, but he did not take her hand. He stood beside her where everyone could see them clearly. Claire looked at him, her eyes bright with tears she did not hide. I should have told you the truth from the beginning, she said softly. Marcus nodded. Yes. I cannot undo that. No. Her breath shook. But I can spend the rest of my life being someone who does not hide when the truth gets hard. Marcus looked out at the room, then back at her. That is a better beginning than most people get. Claire gave a small, unsteady smile. The foundation director began to clap, slowly at first. Others joined, not because they had been told to, but because the room had finally heard something real. Marcus did not care whether the applause was for Claire, for justice, or for the courage people wished they had shown sooner. He only knew that somewhere across the city, Lila was sleeping safely under her blanket, and for the first time all weekend, the future did not feel like a threat waiting at the door. 3 days later, the city had moved on to other headlines, but Marcus still woke before his alarm. He stood in the kitchen while dawn turned the windows pale blue, waiting for the coffee to finish dripping into the pot. The truck was back from the repair shop, the engine finally quiet again, and Lila's science project stood on the table beside a bowl of oranges. Her bridge of craft sticks had survived every test she could invent, including the weight of 3 hardcover books and 1 determined stuffed rabbit. "It is stronger because of the triangles," she explained for the 5th time that morning. Marcus smiled as he packed her lunch. "You have mentioned that. You need to remember it for my presentation." "I will remember." His phone rested on the counter beside the permission slip. Claire had not called since the night outside his building. She had sent one message the next morning, short and respectful. "The board review has begun. Diana has been asked not to contact you or Lila. Thank you for the star." Marcus had read it twice, then put the phone away. He did not know what he wanted from Claire, and he refused to make a decision while the memory of the gala still felt too close. At 8:10, he drove Lila to school. The morning was cold and clear, and she talked the whole way about how Naomi from her class had used too much glue on her volcano. When they reached the curb, Lila unbuckled her seat belt, then looked at him with sudden seriousness. "Dad, are you sad?" Marcus rested one hand on the steering wheel. "A little tired, maybe. Because of Claire?" Children had a way of stepping around the words adults spent hours avoiding. Marcus looked toward the school entrance. "Sometimes people can be important before you know what they are going to be in your life." Lila considered that. "Like triangles?" He laughed. "Not exactly like triangles. Maybe she is trying to be stronger." Marcus looked at his daughter, then nodded. "Maybe she is." After Lila disappeared through the school doors, Marcus drove to a small apartment building on the east side where an elderly customer had called about a broken radiator. The work was simple. A worn valve, a loose connection, an old system that needed patience more than force. Marcus liked work like that. It gave him a problem with an answer. By noon, his hands smelled faintly of metal and dust, and the apartment was warm again. The woman who lived there pressed an extra $20 into his hand, even though he tried to refuse. "You came when you said you would," she told him. "That is worth something." Marcus thanked her and walked back to his truck. His phone rang before he could start the engine. Claire's name appeared on the screen. He watched it ring twice, then answered. "Marcus." "Hi," Claire said. Her voice sounded different. Not lighter exactly, but clearer. "I know you did not ask for an update, so I will keep this brief." "Okay." "The board accepted the preliminary findings. Diana has been removed from her executive role while the investigation continues. The company has hired an outside firm to review the harassment, and the way employees were pressured into staying silent." Marcus leaned against the truck door. "What about Naomi?" "She is safe. She has a new reporting line, and she is keeping her job." Marcus let out a breath. "Good." There was a pause. He could hear faint traffic on Claire's end of the call. "There is something else," she said. "I have been thinking about what you said. About telling the truth before someone else pays the price. I cannot undo what happened, but I can change what happens next." Marcus waited. "I am starting a program through the foundation," Claire continued. "Small emergency grants for working parents who are one car repair or one missed paycheck away from losing stability. It will be managed independently, with clear rules and no family control." Marcus closed his eyes for a second. He thought of the repair estimate on his counter, the way $840 had felt like a wall. "That could help people," he said. "I hope so. Do not build it around me." "I will not," Claire replied. "I am building it because I finally understand how easily people with money can confuse charity with control." Her honesty caught him off guard. "Why are you telling me?" Claire was quiet for a moment. "Because I would like your opinion. Not today if you do not want to give it. But someday." Marcus looked down the street, where sunlight warmed the brick buildings. "I can give you one opinion now." "What is it?" "Make sure the people receiving help do not have to prove they deserve dignity first." Claire's breath caught softly. "I will. Another pause settled between them, but it was not uncomfortable. Lila has her science presentation tomorrow, Marcus said. She is nervous, even though she will not admit it. I hope it goes well, Claire said. She will be great. She is. Claire hesitated. Marcus, I will not ask to come. He heard the restraint in her voice. It mattered. Good, he said, then softened the word before it could sound cruel. She needs her dad there. That is enough for now. Of course, Claire said. Thank you for answering. After the call ended, Marcus sat in the truck for a long time. He did not feel like the weekend had disappeared. It had left marks. But some marks were not wounds. Some were reminders of where a person had finally chosen not to bend. That evening, while Lila practiced her presentation in the living room, Marcus found the paper star she had made for Claire tucked inside his jacket pocket. He did not remember putting it there. He set it on the windowsill, where the last light of the day touched its crooked edges. Then he picked up his phone and typed a message. Good luck with the foundation. Claire replied a minute later. Thank you? And Marcus, I meant what I said. I am trying. The next afternoon, Marcus stood in the back of Lila's classroom with his hands in his jacket pockets, watching her face the poster board she had carried to school like it was a piece of fragile glass. Sunlight came through the tall windows and warmed the rows of small desks. Parents lined the walls with paper coffee cups and hopeful smiles. Lila stood at the front beside her bridge of craft sticks, her curls tied back with a yellow ribbon, her eyes fixed on the first note card in her hand. For one long second, she did not speak. Marcus saw her shoulders rise as she took a breath. Then she looked up. My project is about why triangles make bridges strong, she said. Her voice was quiet at first, but it grew steadier with every sentence. She explained how the shapes spread weight across the structure. She pointed to the crossbeams she had glued herself. When her teacher placed 3 books on top of the bridge it held. The class clapped, and Lila's smile came slowly, as if she was surprised she had earned it. Marcus clapped until his palms stung. When the presentations ended, Lila ran to him and wrapped both arms around his waist. I did not forget anything, she said. You did not, Marcus told her. You were incredible. She looked toward the classroom door. Did Claire come? Marcus followed her gaze. Claire stood in the hallway beyond the open door, holding a small bouquet of yellow daisies and wearing a simple cream coat. She had not entered. She had not taken a seat. She had not tried to become part of a moment that belonged to Marcus and Lila. She waited until Marcus met her eyes, then gave a small wave. Marcus looked down at Lila. She came to say congratulations, if that is okay with you. Lila's face brightened. She remembered? She did. Marcus led Lila into the hallway. Claire crouched slightly so she was closer to Lila's height, but she did not reach for her. I heard a rumor that a very smart engineer built the strongest bridge in class, Claire said. Lila took the flowers with both hands. It was triangles. Of course it was, Claire said. I should have known. Lila studied the daisies. Are these for me? They are, if you like them. I do. Lila looked at Marcus, then back at Claire. Did you fix the hard stuff? Claire's smile was gentle. Some of it. And I am still working on the rest. Lila nodded as if that was the only answer she expected. A few minutes later, Marcus walked Lila to Mrs. Alvarez's car for an afternoon at the park. Before she climbed inside, Lila leaned toward him and whispered, Claire is trying harder. Marcus smiled. She is. When the car pulled away, the school hallway became quiet. Claire stood beside the bulletin board covered in children's drawings. I hope I did not cross a line, she said. You did not, Marcus replied. You waited outside. I wanted you to decide. Marcus looked at her for a moment. The old fear was still there, but it no longer filled every corner of him. The foundation program, he said. I read the outline you sent. Claire's eyes widened slightly. You did? I did. What did you think? Marcus held out the folder he had brought from his truck. Its pages were marked with notes in the margins. The emergency grants are good. But people should not have to tell strangers every painful detail of their lives to qualify. And there should be childcare support. A parent cannot keep a job if there is nowhere safe for their kid to go. Claire took the folder carefully. Will you help me make it better? Marcus looked through the school doors toward the bright afternoon outside. He thought about the first time Claire had asked him to be her weekend date, when he had believed the job would end with a few hours, a payment, and a polite goodbye. He thought about the fear that had followed, the truth that had finally come out, and the way Claire had learned to ask instead of assume. I can help, he said. But I am not your project. I know, Claire said. You are not. And Lila comes first. Always. Marcus nodded. The answer settled something inside him. Claire looked down at the folder, then back at him. There is one more thing, she said. The board asked me to return as chief executive officer after the review. I told them I would only accept if the company created independent protections for employees who report pressure or discrimination. Marcus raised an eyebrow. What did they say? They said yes. A small smile appeared on his face. Then maybe they are learning too. Claire laughed softly. Slowly. They walked out of the school together, not holding hands, not pretending the past had vanished, but moving in the same direction. At the curb, Claire stopped beside Marcus's truck. I do not know what this becomes, she said. Neither do I, Marcus replied. But I know what it cannot be. What is that? It cannot be built on fear. Claire looked at him with the same clear eyes she had brought to the stage, the same courage that had cost her so much and given her something back. Then we build it slowly, she said. Marcus looked down the street where Lila's yellow ribbon disappeared around the corner, then back at Claire. Slow is fine. Claire smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. Marcus opened the truck door, then paused. There is a bakery near the river with cinnamon rolls the size of dinner plates, he said. Lila thinks you should try one. Claire's laugh warmed the cold afternoon. Is that an invitation? Marcus looked at her, feeling the future open not like a grand promise, but like a door left unlocked. It is a beginning.